She watched and noticed from early on. But then she could cry inconsolably. Nothing could comfort her, until suddenly she was distracted by a little bird hopping on a branch outside the window, or she noticed her mother's earring twinkling in a shaft of sunlight coming into the room, and she would be stilled again. Her eyes were very blue. She gazed at her pretty mother's face as she looked down at her. The mother and daughter looked into each other's eyes. The daughter loved and was loved. She wanted nothing more. And then her brother Augustus was born. Augusta must have had a deep attachment to him from the start. She called him Augustus to signify to the world their closeness. Augusta, Augustus, and then there would be Auguste later on. Did that name, Augusta, the first of the three, suggest a sort of template of deep attachment? In my own life, the two men I have been most intensely involved with, Lucian Freud and my husband, Stephen Kupfer, in both cases their girlfriend before me was called Kate, the name of my younger sister, the sister I am closest to. I had suffered terrible jealousy at her birth and felt supplanted by her in my mother's affection, but then grew to love her particularly. Jealousy heightens love. The special intensity with which we observe the object of our mother's, or lover's, devotion narrows down the beam of our focus. Who was it who said that love is the highest form of attention? My husband's mother was called Kirta, and he has suggested to me that part of the heartbreak he suffered after his girlfriend Kate left him, and she chose to leave him as his mother was dying, was that he'd lost two mothers. Lucian was named after his mother, Lucy, because she sensed a special bond with him at first sight. So often there is a tangled web of emotion surrounding a name. Jealousy, possessiveness, entitlement. For the named person and for the person who named them. Gwen's mother was a painter. She used to sign her paintings Gussie, the name that Augustus was also called by his family and friends. One painting she signed A. John, and it hangs in the Dalton collection in Charlotte, North Carolina, because the collector thought it was by Augustus. The walls of the sitting room in the family home were covered with Augustus paintings, pastoral scenes of women and children on lonely roads. She decorated the nursery walls with images for the children's amusement. She taught her children how to paint by filling in the outlines of a colouring book. This is a technique that Gwen adapted in her own work much later on. Gwen always acknowledged her indebtedness to her mother. Haverfordwest, where Gwen was born, is a seaside town in Pembrokeshire. Augusta would sketch on the beach. Gwen stood by her, captivated by the mystery and importance of painting. The sea was always connected in Gwen's mind with her mother. Later, in France, la mer, the mother, or la mer, the sea, filled her with longing. Gwen said, "When I was a child, I used to cry all the time, and they told me, 'Don't cry now. When you're grown up, you'll have something to cry about.' So I was afraid of growing up, and I never experienced any happiness in life." The atmosphere at home became very tense and charged with secrets. Augusta was ill, and nobody would say what was the matter. She had often been poorly, suffering from rheumatism, but this illness was a new development. She spent days and nights shut in her bedroom, and the children were instructed not to go near her or to make any noise. Augusta died when Gwen was 8 years old. The official record states that the cause of death was rheumatic fever and gout, but Gwen suspected that wasn't the real reason. The secrecy surrounding her mother's death continued to haunt her. The cause of her death remains unclear. I wonder if it was cancer. I know that in Victorian times, cancer was considered a shameful disease. Even in 1983, when my father died from cancer, my mother couldn't admit to herself, or to anybody, that it was cancer that had killed him.